Dear students, welcome to the YouTube channel H2O Chemistry. In this video, I'm going to discuss the lesson called Changes Around Us. So let us see some introduction about this unit. The first one, what do you mean by the word change? A change is a transformation of a substance from one form to another form. Look at this. An ice melts into liquid water, so that the solid form of ice changes into liquid form. So one form to another form, transformation happens. That's why we call it as a change. Similarly, the dichromate, the ammonium dichromate, if you light it, it will happen. It will convert into the green color chromium oxide and nitrogen as well as oxygen. So this is another important chemical reaction in the nature. So what do you understand here? A change is a transformation of substance from one form to another form. The next one, the main broad classification of changes are physical change and chemical change. Sometimes the chemical change are called as chemical reactions. So let us see some more basics about this changes. First of all, let us learn something about the physical change. We know that what will happen when the physical change happens. A change in which physical property of a substance transform. What are the physical properties? For example, color. Look at this picture. You can easily see painting of an object is a physical change because only the color of the object alone changes. There is no new substance formed, remember. So painting is a physical change. Come to temperature. So this rod has been heated. Only the rod has got heat, right? It has absorbed the heat. So there is no change in the physical composition or chemical composition. So we can call it as a physical change. Look at this pin shape. So this pin has slightly bent, but it's made up of iron. Even before in the actual position it is iron. Now it is also iron. So there is no change in the composition. So it is a physical change. So only some physical property alone changes. Come to the next one. Change of state. So here a solid state changes into liquid state. So that is we can call change of state is a physical change. Next is density, mass, volume, etc. You can look at this picture. The oil is having less density than water, so it floats up. So density also is a physical property. So when there is a change in such a properties, we call it as a physical change. On the other hand, come to the chemical change. Chemical change occurs when there is a change in the composition of a substance. So change in the composition, very important, my dear children. So what do you mean by this composition? So let us see some basics about it. Look at the first picture. Change in temperature. Yes, when you light the candles, what happens? The candle, the fuel burns with the help of the thread, right? So I can say that the fuel burns. So you can see some heat around this area. So I can say change in temperature takes place. Similarly, change in color. The iron rod becomes rusted iron, right? So this is an example of change in color. Formation of odor. So when you see a rotten egg, it will give a bad smell. So that is a formation of change in odor. That means there is some new substance. That means a composition of a substance changes. That's what you have to understand. In this, all the candles, what is made up of? We call it as a petroleum product. So it's a wax. So this wax is going into vapor state, and then it burns up and converted into carbon dioxide and water, right? Similarly, the rust, iron is converted into iron oxide, hydrogen iron oxide. That's why the new substance are formed. Similarly, the new substance formed, because of that we get a bad odor in the rotten egg. And then the formation of precipitate, you could see, right? We could see the white precipitate formed in this test tube, right? So this is we call precipitate. It is an insoluble substance formed in the chemical reaction. It's called precipitate. Got it? Now, when you mix sodium chloride, right? Sodium sulfate and barium chloride mixtures, we get a barium sulfate like this. This is a precipitate is barium sulfate. The next one you can see it is a ammonium dichromate decomposition reaction. So this is what we have to see, my dear children. So you could see dichromate volcano, it's a volcano type chemical change. We call sometimes it is a chemical volcano. Now this is the first point, my dear children. Let us go to the next point, that is physical change is reversible and chemical change is irreversible. Let us see, the physical change is reversible and it is temporary. Yes, we will see that. Look at this picture, the ice melts into liquid, whereas in this picture the same liquid will become solid ice, right? Here the phase changes, the state changes this solid to liquid, whereas here liquid to solid. So you could see clearly, my dear children, the solid form of ice is converted into liquid form of water, whereas here the liquid form of water is converted into solid form. So it is easily reversible process, right? It's temporary too. So you can easily reverse it. So it's temporary change. What about this chemical change? You could look at this cracking, right? Busting of firecrackers. So what happens? Once it's busted, we'll get a piece, right? And all the chemicals inside, it will convert it, it will burn into different substances. So once it is burst, we cannot make again firecrackers from that. So it is a permanent change, which is irreversible change. So that is we have to understand. The next point is physical change. No new substance is formed. Very important. Whereas in chemical change, new substance is formed. Look at this. The liquid water is converted by freezing, converted into solid ice, right? After freezing. Now look at this. The chemical composition before and after this change, right, is same. Even the formula of water in the liquid state is H2O, whereas the formula of water in the solid state, nothing but ice, is also H2O. So what you understood here is there is no change in the chemical composition. The elements what it is made up of and the number of elements it is made up of is same. That's what you have to understand. So here also it is H2O, here also it is H2O. Once you heat this, the water will come into water vapor. The water vapor also has the same formula, that is H2O. So there is no change in the chemical composition. On the other hand, look at the chemical change here. The hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. The red ones are hydrogens, the blue ones are oxygen, H2O2. When this decomposes, what actually happens? The oxygen and the water molecule, it decomposes into. So it decomposes to oxygen and water molecule. So once it is formed, it cannot again recombine to form this H2O2. So what do you understand here? It is permanent and it is irreversible. And here you could see here on the left hand side we have H2O2, whereas on the right hand side we have water and oxygen. So there is new substances formed in the chemical change. That you have to understand very clearly. The next point is energy needed for such a change. Physical change is very small. Look at this. When you heat the ice, it will become liquid. When you heat a liquid water, it will become a gas. This is what the normal change we say. So when you do this, we want to supply some energy, right? So when you heat the solid ice, it becomes liquid. When you heat the liquid water, it becomes water vapor. So what is this? So we have to supply some energy. That energy is very, very small. So energy needed for this physical change is small when compared to the chemical change. Let's look at this. So when you see, when any wood is burning, you cannot go near it because a lot of heat is evolved, right? Or emitted from it. A lot of heat is we can easily see. So we can easily feel. So what you can understand, the energy needed to burn this wood is much than that of this transformation of solid to liquid, liquid to gas. So here the energy required to burn a wood is large when compared to the physical changes. So these points you have to keep it in mind so that it will be used in your later stages, right? So let us go to some more basics. First of all, some example we will see, which is given in the activity number 1. Now look at this physical change. Melting of ice is a physical change. Absolutely yes, because there is no new substance formed. The change is temporary. Again, the liquid water, we can freeze it back into solid, right? Solid ice. So it is a physical change, right? It's reversible. Come to viscosity, right? Viscosity changes, right? This is a flowing fastly, whereas this is flow very slowly. So this is we call viscosity of a liquid. So this is when there is a change in viscosity, we call it as a physical change. Come to recycling of plastics. So the plastic is melted. So the solid form of plastic melts into liquid form. That's all. Again, we remold it. So the recycling of plastic is a change, comes under physical change. Come to the next one, chemical change. Some of the examples given here: ripening of fruits. You could see the stages of banana, ripening stages of banana. So once it is formed, we cannot reverse it back to the raw banana. So once it's ripened, we cannot reverse it. So it is a chemical change. Come to the next one, rusting of iron. Yes, the iron combined with oxygen and water vapors to form this hydrated iron oxide. So once it is formed, brown color layer is formed in the iron. We cannot reverse it. So that is the reason it is called chemical change. Come to spoilage of foods. Yes, bread gets spoiled. Here, most other foods get spoiled. You can easily see we cannot reverse into a fresh food. So spoilage of food is a chemical change. Come to burning of wood. Burning of wood is absolutely chemical change, because once the wood is burned, we cannot get the wood back. So the process is permanent, right? So we get a new substances out of it. So it is a chemical change. Come to the bursting of crackers. We already discussed this comes under chemical change, because once the chemicals inside the crackers busted, it will convert into gases and some other substances. So new substances are formed. So it is a chemical change. Come to the burning of camphor, right? So once it is formed, the organic molecules in the camphor are converted into gaseous state, right? So it is a new substances are formed. So it is a chemical change. Browning of apple, right? So once when you cut an apple, when you keep it open on the air, the compound present in the apple get oxidized. This idea behind the browning of apple. So that once the browning of apple has happened, we cannot reverse into the fresh apple again. So it is a permanent change. So it is a chemical change. Running a steam engine, right? So once it is formed, right? So we cannot reverse it. And combustion is a burning of petrol. Once petrol is burned, what will happen? The molecule, the petroleum oil present, the molecule present in the petrol, like pentane, octane, all this converted into carbon dioxide and water. So new substances are formed. The change is permanent. Once the petrol burned, we cannot get the petrol back from their gases. So it is a chemical change. So you can see this picture and you can feel the activity. So what do you understand, my dear children? The very simple idea, the chemical change is permanent. I can guarantee say it's a permanent, irreversible, in which new substances are formed. That's what we have to understand by these examples. Now let us go to the next one. Very simple concept about physical changes. Now we will see what are some physical changes. Let us see. When you boil a solid, right? When you heat solids, it will melt into liquid. So this process is called melting, right? Similarly, when you heat liquid, it will convert it into gas. This process is called vaporization. Similarly, we will go for the reverse one. When you cool the gas, it will convert into condense into liquid. So this process is called condensation. Similarly, when you cool it, it will become solid. That process is called freezing. Similarly, some substances are having a peculiar character like this, so they will directly change from solid to gas like this. Let us have some example like mothballs, naphthalene balls, or camphor. What happens when you heat it? The solid camphor directly converted into gaseous form, right? So when you cool it, they have directly come to the gaseous form of camphor, directly come to the liquid form without going into liquid state. So this process, when you heat the solid camphor, So it will change into gaseous states without going into liquid states. This process is called sublimation, whereas when you cool the gaseous form of camphor, it will come to the solid form of camphor. This process is called deposition. So this is one we have to understand. Let's see some chemical changes. Now, what do you understand? So this is a combustion reaction what I have given. It's a CH4 is a natural gas methane. When methane burned in the presence of oxygen, right? The new products are formed as carbon dioxide and water. So on the left hand side, so we call it as a chemical change because some reaction is happening between these two substances, methane and this oxygen. So it forms a new products like carbon dioxide and water vapor. So what do you understand, my dear children? So we can represent the equation like this. Methane plus oxygen will give you carbon dioxide plus water vapor. So here, on the left hand side, if you see the substance which are participating in the reaction are called the reactants, whereas the substance which are formed in the reaction are called products. So on the left hand side we have two substances, methane and oxygen. On the right hand side we have carbon dioxide and water vapor, two substances. So you can clearly see the reactants and the products. So this is what we have to. So in any chemical reactions, reactants take part in the chemical reactions. So after the reaction, the products are formed. So this is what you have to understand. The next one, right? In some chemical changes occurs only in particular conditions. We know that in our society too, people live in different conditions, not in the same condition. Someone lives in a rich manner, someone in a poor, and economically we are divided, right? Not only in economical, in many factors we divided. So even the chemical reactions occur like that. The chemical reaction will not occur in the same condition always. They occur only in the different conditions. So that is what you have to understand. So what are the different conditions required to perform a chemical reaction? The following conditions are physical contact, solution of reactants. We have to mix two different solutions so that the reaction will happen. Physical contact, very important. When you rub the match stick with a matchbox, we get fire. So there is some chemical reaction happens. So this is called physical contact. Solution, when you mix two solution, some precipitate occurs, and then electricity. Some reactions definitely require electricity, some reaction requires heat, some reaction require light, and some requires catalyst. So these conditions we will discuss in our next video. I hope the introduction about this chemical changes will be very helpful in learning the changes around us. Thank you, my dear children. If you like this video, subscribe and click the bell button to get the notification instantly. Like the video, comment, and share it to your friends. Let them learn from the concepts. Thank you so much.